Hello and welcome to the Strike a Balance podcast for Working Homeschool Moms. This is Charlotte Jones, homeschool coach and homeschooling mom of twin boys. I know it can feel really overwhelming to keep all the balls in the air all the time, so each week I chat about tips and strategies for being a happy and thriving working homeschool mom that you can implement in your life too. I also speak to awesome and inspiring women who manage to juggle homeschooling and work successfully and find out what their secrets are. Be sure to check out my Working Homeschool Mom Magic Mindset Challenge in the show notes and sign up to my newsletter for lots of cool homeschool freebies. And if you ever need to chat, please book in a session with me. I'm so excited for you to be here, and I hope you'll get so much value out of this episode. So let's get started. Hello, I hope you're all well. I'm really excited about today's episode because it's something I wish I'd had when I'd started out as a working homeschool mom. The beginning can be really scary, overwhelming, frustrating as well. So I hope with this short little episode, I'll be able to give you some practical tips and strategies for making the transition as smooth as possible so that you don't totally lose your mind. First of all, I would consider a crossover period if possible. And I think this is kind of useful for any big changes in your life because it takes us time to get used to living in a new reality, basically, or how things are in a new reality. A crossover period can be really useful because it's an opportunity to start getting a feel for what homeschooling will look like for you and your kids. So you could start by doing some low-key homeschooling over weekends or in the evenings, trying out some curricula or online programs, seeing what your kids enjoy and discovering how they learn as well. It's a perfect time when the stakes are relatively low to allow your kids to play and discover and have fun because you will learn so much from this. You'll see what they like. You'll see what they don't like, how they learn, things like that. So a crossover period for homeschool can be really good. If you can do it before you start homeschooling, and we did it and it worked out really well. You could also consider a crossover period for work if you want to change from one kind of work to another, or if you're going to change the way that you do your job as well. So for me, I think it was almost 2 years to move from my kind of corporate job. Granted, I did work at home, to move from that one to a freelance job where I had total control over my schedule and how it looked. Currently, I'm an online English teacher, so I used that time to build up my students and to fill up my calendar sufficiently. And granted, it was difficult at the beginning, I must be honest, because I did work a lot of nights. But then once we were ready to start homeschooling, I was able to have a more flexible calendar. But for example, if you are going to do your same job, a crossover period can really help just to give you a feel of what it's going to be like. You can start making some decisions about what your schedule might look like and things like that. I did speak, I think a few episodes, maybe 2 episodes ago, about deschooling. And deschooling is really going to help so much when you start being a working homeschool mom, because it's a period of time where you can find a schedule, like I said before as well, with the crossover period, but also during deschooling, you can find a schedule that works for the whole family. You can discover how, what, where, and when your kids like to learn. You may discover that your kids actually prefer to work during the middle of the day or the afternoon. And this can make it easier because obviously mornings are usually very stressful, especially for work, getting to work if you have to work outside the home. So if your kids are happy in the afternoon, that might work out really well for you and make your schedule much easier to manage. And as I said before, it's the most important part is the transition from a school mentality to a homeschool reality. So deschooling is as important for parents, probably more important for parents than for kids, because you need to open your mind to what is possible, to how your kids learn, to all the wonderful things that are available to you that you might not have thought about before. It's also a good time to get to know each other as a family. If your kids have been in school, then often you don't see them for long periods of time. But when you spend a lot of time together, you really do get to know them. And let me just warn you, it can be full on to spend a lot of time with your family. I love it, but at the same time, it can be incredibly intense. So just make sure that you schedule in some self care or some alone time, because I think it's vital to being a successful working homeschool mom. The next thing I found that worked for me was to lower my expectations dramatically. So, once again, I think lowering your expectations is probably good advice for a lot of things in life. But when it comes to being a working homeschool mom, there are things that are probably better to let go of. And for me, that was a house that is tidy and organized at all times. Something else I had to let go of was a dedicated area just for homeschooling. We live in a very small place, so we don't really have a room specifically for homeschooling. And if that's the case for you as well, don't let it deter you, because I mean, kids are happy to learn wherever. They're happy to learn in their rooms, in the lounge, at the kitchen table. Obviously, it would be lovely to have a dedicated homeschool area, but if you don't have one, I think it's fine, and let go of that expectation. And also, obviously, don't compare. If you're comparing yourself to what other people's homeschool looks like, it can also be frustrating, or you can feel like you're not offering your kids what you should. But trust me, kids are happy to learn anywhere, everywhere, and they do it constantly. And another thing I let go of was that my kids were going to be learning consistently and eagerly at all times. This is definitely not the case. We've had lots of ups and downs, but I think kind of leaning into the flexibility is also really, really, really important. Another expectation that I had to lower was using box curricula or using a full curriculum that looks really cool, that lots of people are talking about, that everybody raves about, because they just didn't work for us. So I guess you would also let go of the idea that you're going to choose one program that you're going to use the whole year. This is probably not going to be the case. Well, if you're lucky, great. But I think, once again, being open to changing things as you go along. And that comes with learning about your kids and also letting go of the need for total control. If you let go of this control, it can be a much more harmonious experience. And another expectation that flew out the window was that it would be plain sailing all the way. Like I said, we've had lots of ups and downs, but now I'm more pragmatic. If there's something wrong, or if the kids are really pushing up against something, then I have a look at what it is, why they're pushing up against it. It's a good starting point to find something that works better. Another expectation that was very unrealistic was the idea that the kids were going to be studying for 8 hours a day like they did at school. And I felt bad that they weren't doing this. It's not necessary when you homeschool. Just because kids are not doing workbooks or online exercises doesn't mean that they're not learning. If you give them enough opportunities to play and explore and discover, they'll be learning in a natural, engaged, and organic way, which is the best kind of learning. So as long as you're just giving them as many opportunities to try things out, then you don't need to worry about 8 hours of intensive learning. We do probably an hour or two per day where we do the more structured subjects like maths and writing and reading, things like that. So for the rest of the day, they read, they do Lego, they do play Nintendo Switch, and they kind of amuse themselves and discover things. And it's not necessary for them to be learning or sitting down in front of a computer or a workbook for more than 2 hours a day, I think. Probably one of the most important steps when you first start is to find a support network. Social media has its problems, absolutely, but at the same time, you can meet so many like-minded people on social media, on Facebook, on Instagram specifically, I would say. I've met so many wonderful working homeschool moms and homeschoolers in general on Instagram, and they've really, really helped me a lot when times have been tough because we don't really have much of a homeschooling community where I live. I suggest finding a working homeschool mom community for lots of reasons. They're great for getting ideas and resources. Lots of people give free resources. I have a resource library, for example. I also like to give lots of ideas on social media. You can also commiserate when your friends and family don't agree with your choices, because I know a lot of people have issues with that, where friends and family think that they've made the wrong decision. They're worried about how children are going to turn out when they homeschool, socialization, all that kind of stuff. So when you have people who are in the same situation as you, it can really, really help so much. Unless people are in the trenches with you, they don't understand what it's like or why you've made this choice. So having a community online or in person can really make a huge difference in how your working homeschool mom life is. You can also reach out for advice and support when you're feeling frustrated and alone. I know I've done that many, many times, and it's really, really helped me so much. And on the positive side as well, you can share your wins with others who understand what it takes to be a working homeschool mom. If you're looking for a community, I have a group on Facebook called the Working Homeschool Moms Support Group, and it's a great place to come and hang out. So if you're looking for this kind of group, I would love to have you there. So I'll put the link in the show notes. Come hang out with us. It would be fantastic to have you there. So that's all for this week, a nice short little episode. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out at any time. I'm here to support you. I'm such a believer in this way of life, and I think it is possible. If you're feeling frustrated, overwhelmed, then please reach out. I would love to help you and support you in any way that I can.
I really hope you enjoyed the episode today. Drop me a DM on Instagram or post on the Working Homeschool Moms support group over on Facebook, and let me know what resonated the most with you. It would also be great if you could rate, review, and subscribe, or share the podcast with a working homeschool mom who might need it. Until next time, take care. Hello and welcome to the Strike a Balance podcast for working homeschool moms. This is Charlotte Jones, homeschool coach and homeschooling mom of twin boys. I know it can feel really overwhelming to keep all the balls in the air all the time, so each week I chat about tips and strategies for being a happy and thriving working homeschool mom that you can implement in your life too. I also speak to awesome and inspiring women who manage to juggle homeschooling and work successfully and find out what their secrets are. Be sure to check out my Working Homeschool Mom Magic